All right, ready to dive into today's deep dive? We're all about the fast-paced world of finance and tech today. Digital currencies, blockchain, shaking things up, the whole shebang. And you've sent us a ton of articles and reports, so let's dig in.
Sounds good to me. We'll unpack it all, cut through the noise, and try to make sense of it all. Connect the dots and see where things are headed.
Okay, so let's start with what's happening in Taiwan. There's been a lot of talk about potential new regulations, right, for financing companies. It seems like this has been in the works for a while. What's the latest?
Well, the Financial Supervisory Commission there, they're considering bringing those larger publicly listed leasing companies under, those financial consumer protection laws. They're also thinking about a separate law just for financing companies based on some research that's due out later this year.
Interesting. The original draft law is from 2008. That feels like ages ago in the finance world, especially with how fast things change.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole financial scene globally has, completely changed since then, especially with fintech exploding the way it has. This new research, it'll be super important to make sure the regulations actually work in today's world.
Yeah, I can see that. It makes you think, does this move towards stricter regulations? Will that impact similar companies globally? Will we see other countries following suit?
It's a good question. Taiwan is often kind of a testing ground for this type of thing, new financial regulations. I bet a lot of countries are watching this closely. I mean, if Taiwan's regulations are successful, other countries might try to do the same thing, especially with fintech being kind of like the Wild West. So, yeah, it could be huge for stability and protecting consumers in the long run. But you also have to think about, will it stifle innovation? It's a tough balance.
Definitely a balancing act. Speaking of navigating tricky situations, let's zoom out to the global stage for a second. Looks like Putin is pumping the brakes on that BRICS unified currency.
Seems that way, yeah. It looks like they've hit a roadblock. Putin is saying they need stronger economic ties within the bloc before they can launch a shared currency.
So unified currency is on hold, but he still wants to use digital currencies for investments within the BRICS countries.
That's right. Seems like digital currencies, even without a unified one for the whole bloc, are becoming more and more appealing, a real alternative, especially with all the geopolitical tensions and sanctions flying around these days.
Interesting. I wonder, does this signal a shift towards a multipolar world, where different blocs create their own financial systems? Could we see a move away from the US dollar being dominant? What could this mean for investors in emerging markets, for example?
Definitely something to keep an eye on. If BRICS can successfully use digital currencies for internal investments, who knows? Other countries might get some ideas. For investors, it could mean some interesting new opportunities as these different economic blocs start to really make their mark. And yeah, it could shake up the whole global financial order as we know it. Who knows? Maybe the US dollar won't be as dominant.
It's like a big game of financial chess, and we're watching it play out in real time. But let's shift gears again, talk about a major player, BlackRock. They're making some interesting moves with crypto.
Oh, totally. BlackRock is talking with some of the big names in crypto like Binance and OKX about using their BUIDL token as collateral.
So for those of us who don't live and breathe Wall Street, what's the big deal here?
This is huge. BlackRock, they're a giant in asset management, and them getting into bed with big crypto exchanges like this, it's a really big deal. It's like Wall Street is finally taking crypto seriously. If this BIDL token, backed by U.S. bonds and other assets, if it becomes widely accepted for things like derivatives trading, it could really bridge the gap between traditional finance and the crypto world.
That's a great point. Do you think this move by BlackRock, this titan of traditional finance, does it make crypto seem more legitimate to those institutional investors who might have been on the fence before?
Oh, absolutely. For a long time, institutional investors have been hesitant about crypto, a little bit wary. But with BlackRock diving in head first, it could be a domino effect. Other institutions might see that and think, okay, it's time to explore crypto more seriously. We could see a huge surge in investment in crypto becoming more mainstream in the finance world.
It's fascinating to see how fast things change, how quickly this world evolves. And speaking of rapid evolution, it's not just BlackRock making waves in digital finance. The Siam Commercial Bank, SCB, in Thailand, they're launching a cross-border payment system. And get this, it's based on stablecoins.
Yep, that's right. It just goes to show that stablecoins are gaining some serious traction in the real world. They're seeing it as a way to make international transactions, smoother and more affordable.
So what's so special about stablecoins? How are they different from, say, just using a regular bank transfer when you need to send money internationally?
Well, it's like, remember the last time you had to do a bank transfer internationally? It's like a whole thing, right? Fees, waiting forever, tons of paperwork. Ugh. Stablecoins, they're trying to change
You
them.
make it sound so much easier.
Right. They're pegged to something stable, like the US dollar, so their exchange rates are way more stable than other cryptocurrencies, the ones that are all over the place. That makes them way more practical for everyday stuff. This SCB system, they're aiming to make sending money across borders as easy as, like, sending a text, lower fees, faster transactions. It's a big deal for businesses doing international trade and people sending money to family overseas.
Yeah, it could totally revolutionize remittances, cut out those middlemen and crazy fees. It would be huge, especially for people who rely on sending money back home.
Absolutely. It could really change things for those communities. And this is just one example. We're seeing stablecoins taking off in other places too, like Southeast Asia, where traditional financial systems aren't as developed.
Right.
It's really interesting to see how fintech is making financial services more inclusive, more accessible.
It's pretty amazing. Okay, let's switch gears for a sec. Let's talk about something that could make online shopping way smoother and safer. I'm talking about FIDO. So
Yeah.
for anyone who's like, what's FIDO? Can you give us the rundown?
Sure. FIDO, it stands for Fast Identity Online. It's basically a bunch of standards, to make online authentication more secure but also easier to use. Instead of those passwords, the ones we can never remember, it uses things like biometrics.
Like fingerprint scanning, that kind of thing, facial recognition on your phone.
Exactly. So the National Credit Card Center of Taiwan, they're going to launch this NCCC ACS platform with FIDO implementation in early 2025. Fubon Bank is the first one to use it. Imagine you're shopping online, but instead of typing in a password, you just look at your phone or use your fingerprint. Done. Way more convenient, faster, and way more secure than a password.
That's so much better, especially with everyone shopping online and using contactless payments since the pandemic. People want it to be easy, but also secure.
Exactly. And FIDO does both. What's cool about how Taiwan is doing it is they're using blockchain technology along with the biometrics. So it's even more secure and anonymous.
Okay, so how does blockchain make it more secure?
Decentralization. With blockchain, your info, it's not all stored in one place where it's vulnerable to hackers. It's encrypted and spread across the entire network. Way harder to steal. Plus, blockchain is anonymous, so your info isn't directly tied to you in the system. More privacy.
Good to know. Data privacy is a big deal these days. Speaking of which, HIVX is partnering with South Korea's Zero Pay system, right? It seems like another move towards seamless cross-border payments, which we're seeing a lot of.
It's a big deal for anyone into Korean culture, K-pop, K-beauty, all that. So starting in October 2024, people can use HIVX at over 1 million stores in Korea. Huge for tourism, for buying and selling across borders. Imagine landing in Seoul and just using your HIVX app for everything.
So cool. But this isn't their first time doing this in Asia, is it?
Nope. They've already had huge success in Japan with a similar model. This move into South Korea, it shows they're serious about being a big player in Asian fintech. They're focusing on things like fashion, beauty, entertainment, the stuff younger generations are into. Smart move.
It is. And they want to be the first non-Korean company to offer that reverse scan thing for payments, right? What is that exactly?
Basically, instead of you scanning a QR code at checkout, the cashier scans a code on your phone. Small detail, but it makes it even easier to use.
Makes sense. Okay, this next one sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. Ras Al Khaimah in the UAE, they're creating this whole legal system just for DAOs. So for those of us who are new to the DAO world, what does it all mean?
It's big news for DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. This new framework from the UAE, it finally gives them a clear legal status.
So for someone who's thinking, DAOs sound interesting, but are they even legal? This takes care of that.
Yeah, exactly. It lays out all the rules, like taxes, who owns what, and how the DAO and its members are protected legally. No more gray areas, which could lead to more people feeling comfortable using and investing in them. It's like the Wild West of DAOs is finally getting some laws.
Like the UAE is positioning itself as the place to be for DAOs, kind of like a digital Switzerland.
Interesting comparison. But yeah, kind of. Switzerland has that rep for being business-friendly, neutral. The UAE wants that same image in the digital world, attracting innovators with clear, supportive roles. And get this, smaller DAOs, even startups, they can register online. They don't even need to be in the UAE, and they can get a bank account for like $3,000.
Yeah.
Super easy to get started.
Wow. They're not messing around. Okay, last one for today, and it brings us back to traditional finance, but with a futuristic twist. DBS Bank. a big deal in Southeast Asia. They're launching a tokenization service. So what is tokenization, and why is everyone in finance talking about it?
Tokenization. Think of it like creating a digital twin of a real-world asset on a blockchain. You take something like a stock, a bond, even real estate, and make a digital version of it that can be traded and managed on the blockchain.
So no more paper certificates or complicated paperwork. You have these digital tokens that prove you own something.
Exactly. And because they're on a blockchain, you get all the good stuff that comes with it, like transparency, security, and efficiency.
Sounds amazing, but what does it actually mean for big investors, institutions, the ones used to doing things the old way?
Well, first of all, it can make transferring assets way easier. Right now, it's a pain, takes forever. With tokenization, it's faster, less risky, and less prone to errors or fraud. Plus, you save money because you don't need all those middlemen, the brokers, the clearinghouses.
So it's not just making it digital, it's actually making things work better, smoother in the existing financial world, right?
Yeah, you got it. And that's what's interesting about what DBS Bank is doing. They're not trying to replace everything. They're building on what they already have, their payment systems, and combining that with an EVM-compatible blockchain.
Okay, hold on. EVM-compatible blockchain. Now you're just using fancy words. What does that even mean?
It basically means this blockchain can work with a bunch of tools that are already out there. You know, other blockchains, crypto stuff. Makes it way easier for these big institutions to actually use it, to integrate it with their systems. Like a universal adapter for the blockchain world.
So these DBS Bank clients, they can try out these tokenized assets without having to, like, rebuild their entire system from scratch.
Exactly. It's like dipping their toes in the water. They can experiment, see how it works, and gradually get into tokenization. Smart move by DBS Bank. They want to be seen as leaders in this new world.
It seems like tokenization could be even bigger than just finance. Could it change other industries too?
Definitely. We're already seeing that. Think about supply chains, for example. Imagine being able to track like anything from where it's made to when it arrives at your door with total transparency and security, knowing it's authentic, less chance of fraud, or even the art world, right? Tokenization can make it so you can own a piece of a valuable artwork, even if you can't afford to buy the whole thing.
It's like you could own a tiny bit of a Picasso? That's wild.
Exactly. It makes things more accessible. And those are just two examples. We're seeing tokenization being used for real estate, intellectual property, even voting. It's really exciting to see what happens next.
Wow, we've covered so much ground today. From Taiwan changing its regulations, to stablecoins becoming more popular in Southeast Asia, to the UAE going all in on DAOs and DBS Bank diving into tokenization. It's a lot to process.
It really is. It shows how fast things are changing. You know, the lines between traditional finance and all this new stuff, blockchain, digital currencies, it's all blurring together. We're seeing these worlds collide, and it's going to have a huge impact everywhere.
It's definitely an exciting time to be paying attention. It seems like we're on the verge of a massive shift to the way we think about money, technology, everything. So for our listener, we'll leave you with this thought. How could these changes affect your work, your investments, even just your everyday life in the next few years? It's something to think about because it could change the way you make decisions in the future. Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.